Ladies and gentlemen, I really just want to emphasize, remove your biases. Something that I also battle with. I always want to be an innovator. I always want to be the first to do something. But sometimes some of the best businesses, it's already something that exists, and there's so much demand in Kinshasa. The reality of Congo, I just want to be clear here with my video. I'm targeting people in this video that want to start small businesses that have a potential for scale. I'm giving you the main industries that I predict, and I could be wrong, but I'm predicting it based on my observations since I've been in Congo, of industries that I really think are going to be the most in demand in the next 10 years. Hello, beautiful people. Oh, look at me, baby. No. Hi, baby. Hello. All right, so this will be one of my last videos in my apartment here in Kitambo. Yeah, some of you think I live in Pigeon because my last video started with Pigeon, but I got you guys. But I'm moving out of this apartment because it's hell of expensive. Beautiful location. By beautiful, I don't mean like gorgeous because there's sewage outside, but it's hella noisy and it's just very pricey. Like, it's so expensive, but an amazing apartment. 1 bedroom, open concept, very North American, which is what I love. 2 balconies. And I'm in Kitambo, which is literally less than a minute from the Gombe area. But I'm moving on the other side of Kitambo, which is more quiet. And so I'm super happy. But yeah, but for today's video, this one is one that is popular by demand, is how to run a business in Congo, okay? We're gonna talk about it. I did a video not too long ago about how do I say this? My adaptation to Congo, how it has not been good. And for those of you that are thinking about moving here, a lot of people loved it. Some people didn't. But you know what? This is my channel. We're not here to please everybody. I'm here to share my journey with you all. But today I'm going to talk about how to effectively and properly run a business in the DRC, and as a gift to you all, because your girl does not like to gatekeep. Your girl likes to be transparent on how to run a business, because Kinshasa, the DRC, Bukavu, Goma, you name it, this country has a lot of potential. But I think it's time for us of this generation to take action. No more talking, let's be doers. And I really want to give you guys this cheat sheet. It's very simple. It's a two-page, very simple business. I hate business plan, but it's just to help you weed out your ideas, and then to really make sure that the idea that you have is concise, clear, and is really set up for success. So link below in the description of this video, where I'm giving you a free cheat sheet on how to do this. And before you think that I made this business plan myself, I did not. I adapted it from one that I saw years ago, but I really just think it's brief, it's short. No business plan should be long, especially in this day and age. But I really just hope it helps you out. If you're thinking about pursuing a venture in the DRC, utilize it, give it to your friends, spread the word. I don't care. I just want you to succeed, and I want to see more Congolese people killing it. So let's begin, shall we? How to properly run a business in the DRC. Let's start with number 1. And as always, your girl has her laptop with her, because if she doesn't, she'll start going on and on about nonsense. So I really want to be concise. But today we're going to do top four things that I really think you need to keep in mind when you're trying to run a business here. And the 4th one is another giveaway for you all, where I'm giving you the main industries that I predict. And I could be wrong, but I'm predicting it based on my observations since I've been in Congo, of industries that I really think are going to be the most in demand in the next 10 years, that I really think people should get into, rather than jumping into some weird ass sector that's not going to make you money and waste your time. So let's begin with number 1 on how to properly run a business in the DRC. Solve the right problem. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a rule of thumb in business. However, time and time again, founders often get this one wrong. And in the case of the Congo, I kid you not, it's even more critical for you to solve the right problem. So I really think that in the business world, we have different methodology, right? So there's some businesses that I call leisure businesses. These are businesses that are not a necessity. In the West, a good example is coffee shops. Their leisure businesses love coffee shops. Every one of my travel videos, you always see me at a coffee shop. But I'm also aware that a coffee shop is a luxury. It's not a necessity. In the case of Congo, which is considered a third world country, how economists define third world country, you can Google it. But from my understanding, it's really that a country in terms of like import, export, currency, internal production, income brackets, all those variables are not looking so good for a country. Therefore, it's classified as a third world country. And Congo, it's really at its basic. The majority of the country is not developed. I cannot stress this enough. What does that mean? That means the businesses that are the most likely to succeed are businesses that are serving, in my honest opinion, the bottom of the pyramid. So you have a pyramid. At the very top, capitalism, are the very rich, who in Congo I think make up about 5 to maybe 10% are the elites. The rest of the country, which is about 90%, is quite poor. Fair. There is now a maybe 10% middle class forming, but really my guess is about 80 to 85% of the country lives in very much poverty. So when you're doing a business in Congo, in my honest opinion, in a third world country, you need to do a business that serves the mass. This one is it's very hard because you look at any succeeding economy right now, which is, let's be honest, the US and China, the top businesses, whether it's Amazon, whether it's Walmart in China, Alibaba, you name it, who do they serve? They serve the mass. The mass in the United States obviously has a different income bracket than the mass in Congo. The point that I'm trying to make is that there is opportunities in creating businesses that are consumed by the mass. And the good thing about the mass in a third world country like Congo, I have to say, these populations are daily consumers. Yes, they may be spending 1,000 francs, which is what, $50 a day. But guess what? If you create a product that they consume daily in a population like Kinshasa, which has about 20 million people, you sell it to even 1 million people for $1 each person, do the math, right? So I really think that there is opportunities in doing businesses that serve that population. And I'm a bit biased here, and I'm basing this on my personal experience where, and I'm going to do a separate video on this. I have an app, Kinspot, which highlights touristic spots in Kinshasa. But let me tell you, my app was a testing for the market of Congo, and I realized I was targeting the wealthy. The wealthy make up maybe 5% of the population. Most of them, when they have money, they spend it in developed countries. They don't always spend it internally, but guess who does? The mass, the lower income population, they're the one that spend the most in this country. So I really can't stress this enough. If you're going to do a business, I think do a business that the end user, the end consumer is the mass. Or if your business is B2B, so business to business. So a good example of a business that is B2B that I think is brilliant. One of my friends, their company creates plastic mold and cap for like a plastic bottle, like the cap of a plastic bottle. Let me see. I think I have a plastic bottle with me. So this is the cap. Their company just creates this part alone. And they create this part before it's blown into a full bottle. This sounds crazy because I'm like, why don't you just make the whole bottle? That's not their business. Their business is just to create this part and the moule, which is like a tube that gets blown into a machine, for plastic companies that create water. These guys produce over 30 million of these an hour because Congo people consume so much water bottles. So they sell these to businesses that are purifying and creating water for the country. So that's a good B2B business, and these water bottles are often consumed by the mass because when you're in Kinshasa in the car, What do you see on the road are people on the street selling water bottles on their head to the mass. So this is a great example of a B2B that still serves the mass at the end, or you just do a business that literally goes directly towards those consumers. That's my honest opinion. It is a third world country. I can't stress this enough. There are opportunities in creating businesses that serves the mass, but you have to target the right one. And I think another great example is grocery stores. 15 years ago, when I was in Congo, there was no grocery store. Or maybe there was, but they were not the best. But today, there's a huge influx of the Indian population that open grocery stores. And let's be honest, grocery stores, all they are markets. Like the mamas on the street that are selling grocery store are selling produce. Today, they're competing with grocery store. That's all it is. A grocery store is produce from the market, from the villages, but in a nice room with air conditioning, with labels, and clean aesthetic. Why? Because food is a daily consumption by everybody, and it's great cash flow, which is point number 2. All right, your girl has to drink water. All right, I said I was gonna do 4 points, but I'm gonna do 5. Point number 2, if you're gonna do a business in the DRC, so this is a very, I don't know how to say this, but I hope this is not an unpopular take, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Go for a business that is cash flow intensive. When you're starting a business, now I just wanna be clear here with my video. I'm targeting people in this video that wanna start small businesses that have a potential for scale. If you're looking for other type of businesses that from the beginning have a massive capital to start, then probably not the best video for you. But what I'm trying to say is if you're trying to start a business that's starting small, but with time will get bigger and bigger and bigger, I think you need to go for a business that is cash flow intensive. Cash flow is a term you'll often use in business, literally the flow of cash. In, out, in, out, in, out. A good example of that are businesses that operate in the informal sector of the DRC. The DRC, for those of you who don't know, the majority of the economy is in the informal sector. What does that mean? It means a lot of the money is not documented. So a lot of people live on cash. So a lot of the businesses, literally, it's a matter of you selling the product to me paying you cash, and that's it. So you want a business that's cash flow intensive, and a good business that's very cash flow intensive is usually food. That's actually why a lot of people go into the grocery business, because it's one, in the DRC, the grocery industry, it's an easy way to justify importing of goods in a country that doesn't produce much. 2, once you have food on the table, it's so easy for people to come and spend their cash, hence the flow of exchange. So start a business that is very cash flow intensive. And that you can Google cash flow intensive businesses, or don't crack your brain too much. Again, what are things that people are already consuming that I can get into? Or what are problems that people are facing and their problem is so exacerbated that they will be willing to pay to have this problem solved? And ladies and gentlemen, I really just want to emphasize, remove your biases. A lot of you, including myself, I'm 2 years into Kinshasa. It has been a painful thing to learn from me. A lot of my biases that I had growing up in Canada, living in the US, I came here thinking that technology was the end all. No, it's not a priority for people. And that's okay. Like, you need to accept that. Remove your biases. What are things, again, that people are willing to pay for? Or what are things that they're already paying for that I can come in and be a producer or take raw material, transform it into consumable goods? And I just want to emphasize too with that point, something that I also battle with. I always want to be an innovator. I always want to be the first to do something. But sometimes some of the best businesses, it's already something that exists, and there's so much demand in Kinshasa. The reality of Congo, the demand exceeds the supply, especially in many industries like food, and so forth, because we just don't have enough industrialization in this country. So if someone does maize, corn, and you're trying to get in, honey, there's over 100 million people here. There is a high chance that you will also succeed because there's just so much demand. So that's a prime example of producing something that people are already paying for, and that you're coming in as a supplier into that space. Don't come in trying to sell it in the everyday market. You're not going to compete with the moms in the market. You're not. They have a monopoly there. What you can do is go a bit above the value chain and become a supplier of maize. And if you want to go even above that value chain, you want to be a producer of maize and industrialize it. So there's a chain of command in where you have the most value towards the consumer. Please. So cute. Let me look at my notes. This was supposed to be business number 2, point number 2, Lord. But we're gonna make it number 3 because I already made my second point. All right, so point number 3, okay? Number 3, what type of business do you want to do? So this one I think is a piece of advice that I would give to anybody that wants to start a business, but I think in the context of Congo, it is even more critical. So there's different types of business models, right? This is, I think, quite universal, but the ones that I think apply the most in Congo is product-based, service-based, government-based. So those are the 3 layers. Now, for anyone that's ever lived in the United States, I think the US has many issues as a country, but the one thing, actually, there's few good things about the US. One of the things the US is really good at is capitalizing on the service industry. It is the one country that you go to a restaurant and you don't want a food, you can return it. You want a service that comes to your house, does everything for you, you will find an app for it. You want X, Y, and Z, somebody's gonna do it for you. As long as you're willing to pay, they will be someone in the US willing to deliver that service. So usually in economics, a lot of economies that are more developed tend to go from product to service. So I really think that the service industry is huge. And if you are someone that's able to tap into the service industry in the DRC, you will do well. However, it's a little harder, I find. And let me explain. I think if you're someone that's really big on details, like you respond to messages on time, you train your staff to be very professional, you're very good at following up, delivering, you will do well. That's like a rule of thumb. But I think because of the nature of the country, the lack of infrastructure, culturally, sometimes people don't always communicate the best. I have not seen the service industry succeed at the rate of which I've seen in other countries, and that's okay. But really in Congo, the few that I've seen do really well in the service industry in restaurants or spas, the few, they're doing super well. And what I find very beautiful about that, they have a very loyal customer base. It's a small customer base, but it's a reoccurring customer base. So I think if you're gonna do the service industry in the DRC, your price point and your service has to be of a more expensive bracket, and you gotta target the 5 to 10 percentile of the elite. I think that's just my opinion. That's the demographic that really would appreciate and value the service base more, because they're willing to pay more money for speed, which is pretty much efficiency, right? Efficiency is cost and time. If you're able to deliver a service at a quicker time rate, really well done, most people are usually willing to pay more. And people that are willing to pay more tend to have more money. So I think the service industry in the DRC, whatever space you're in, I would definitely target more the elite. And then this first category that I mentioned, I'm kind of going all over the place, which I always do. The first category that I mentioned is product-based. Now, I think from my observation, I find a lot of developing countries, the DRC not included, product-based do better with the mass and with low-income populations. It just makes sense. And I think if you're gonna wanna do a product-based business in the DRC, I think your biggest asset and value is to be a producer, which goes back to my last point, right? You have to look at the value of command. So you're not going to compete with the mamas in the markets. So you have to go up above that. Okay, how do I supply them the goods that they're selling? Okay, fine. You can be a middleman or middlewoman between the producers and those women. Maybe. I don't think you'll get that much of a cut. Or you go above that. You can either rent a land or buy land and industrialize something in energy, agriculture, you name it. So that's the value chain. But I think product-based businesses are, in my opinion, the best when serving the mass. That's why you look at companies like Amazon, Walmart, like what do? They sell usually products in the form of a service. But really, they're in the product business, but they're sort of masking it through Prime, through logistics, and so forth. So I think really that's what makes the most sense when you're serving the mass. And it's easy for transaction when it's a product base. Here's the demand that you have for something, pay me, and we're good. So for a very large mass population that's of low income bracket, a transient business based on product, I think is a little easier to monitor than one that is service based and requires a bit more follow up. Now, the third type of business that falls into that category is government contracts. I'm a little biased here, but I don't like governments. Like I don't understand people in Congo are obsessed with doing business with the government, and I get why, because that's where the money flows. Let's be honest, we're a third world country, right? When foreign aid or public sector investors, who did they invest in? The public sector, the World Bank, IMF, all those guys, historically speaking, they give money to governments. Governments then implement programs, and that's usually through that flow that some people get subcontracted into those deals. Now, the problem is a lot of times some governments will not follow through and pay out these contractors. That's why I don't like governments. However, your girl does not like politics. I ain't gonna get into that, and because I know nothing about politics. But I personally don't like government deals at all, just internationally, even in developed countries like Canada or the US. I find governments more slow, whereas the private sector, it's very, as you say in French, le tic au tac, huh? Here's my service, pay me. I love that kind of speed, but in all truth, the DRC, the public sector, is still quite dominant. So you could get contracts with government where, see that there's a call out to build a road, and you happen to have a construction company. You then get that contract by applying. If you have relationships and connections, you get that, and you then take that money that they will give you. You buy the materials, you have a small team, you pay your team, you get a cut in that money, and so forth. So those are also types of businesses that you can explore. Now, I've given you 3 different models. And by the way, as you notice, in that model, I'm not covering every business. I cannot. There's so many businesses out there. Like, as you notice, I didn't talk about real estate, but there's so many businesses models out there. But the reason why I wanted to highlight that is because you have to be self-aware and know yourself and ask yourself the question, what kind of business does fit my lifestyle? So I'm going to repeat that because I kind of said it weird. But what type of business model fits my lifestyle? Because I think too often people get into businesses not taking into account the kind of lifestyle that they like to live. I have some friends that are in the service industry. They serve a very small niche customer base. Every month they make in sales and revenue, like after expenses are removed, blah, blah, blah. So their profit comes down to just a little under $10,000 a month, and they're happy. Like, that's awesome, actually. I think that's actually really awesome. Whereas some of my friends that are in the industrialization industry, so manufacturing here in Congo, these guys make millions of dollars. However, they're not sleeping. Like, These guys sleep 2-3 hours a day, but they love it. They like the rush, they like the challenge, they like, so all of this to say there are business models that are very much built for scale and requires you to be heavily involved in the day-to-day. There's some businesses not so much. And there's other businesses like say real estate that are a bit more what we call passive income. That being said, you gotta look at what business fits you the most. And I really think that's super critical to link the business model with your lifestyle and see which one can I really commit to, and especially in the context of the DRC.